Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 17 of Shrigleytube TV. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. Hope you enjoy. If you're returning, thank you very much. Hope you've got your popcorn ready. We've managed to dribble on for 50 minutes, and that was without even trying. It was pretty scary, really. I've got two parts to this video. I went to visit a chap called Boult of Collie Conversions, who probably some of you guys have heard of. And I was able to interview him regarding the 5-bearing engine and Rosie Smith and all the Valley cars from back in the day. So I'm going to put that on Tuesday night as a bit of a special. So if you've got over what I've put on Sunday night, then you can watch that on Tuesday. But for tonight, dead straightforward tonight, not too much. Just the engine we did the rebuild on last week, or finished. The one we did the talk about the water temperature. That's on the dyno now, so we've run that. I got a bit carried away talking about it, but hope you enjoy it. It's all relevant. Excuse me. And then after that, we went straight into fixing an engine that had come to me. That was one of my old engines that I had done a while back for a rally car. I had a misfire, so luckily the misfire carried on to the dyno, and we were able to isolate it and fix it. So that was a good little fix. And then we had a visit from a friend, stroke customer, Malcolm, who brought his 930 engine, which unfortunately appears to have had a flood at some point and had some water on board. So we made a plan with him, but he was nice to interview for the channel. And then I got really carried away with a new project I've been doing, just a bit of brain food for me, which was offset grinding or offset turning a crankshaft to reduce the journal diameter, so you can watch that and see what you make of it. And then right at the very end, we had a pair of characters arrive from Chesterfield. Lovely pair of chaps, and they brought their engine, which had been unfortunately damaged in the floods. On the 20th of October, when we had the bad weather, their car got like a bit of water damage. So they're very clever, dropped the engine straight away, brought it down to me, and we stripped it together. We had a look inside, and it was basically sound. It just needs a good clean and putting back together. But we're going to put a rear oil seal conversion and tune it and just have a bit of a play of it. So I'll try not to go on. That's 2 minutes 35 I've waffled for. Hope you enjoyed tonight's content, and I will look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night when we do the Boult special. Good morning, chaps. It's Friday morning. Don't ask me where the week has gone. Absolutely flown. Got a few different things on the video this week for you. This is the engine that we did the talk about, the coolant flow, last week. So I've built it all up now. And the relevance of just running it like that was I wanted to discuss with you how much it fascinates me, how the carburetors work. So at the moment, these carburetors do not have any chokes or venturis in them. And the carburetors, when we rev the engine then, were purely running on the slow circuit. So when when you're tuning these engines and you're trying to make them drive nice on the road, it's amazing how much the slow running circuit does. You think it was just an idle circuit, but no, it's not. So I've got a carburetor here, and we can see how it works. So as we were just giving it little bits of throttle there, you see those progression holes there? Just as we open the throttle a little bit, that's where it was getting its fuel from, because obviously there's not enough air to pull it through the main jet and through the main venturi. So yeah, just fascinated me, and I thought I'd just put that on the video. But a little bit of background on this engine. Obviously, we did the talk on the temperature, and how the last week's video we talked about how the water jacket was designed to remove 39 horsepower of heat energy, and now it's got to do nearly triple that, so hence why I run it cool. Bit of history on this particular engine. This was done a long time ago by myself for a chap called Jim who raced in the HSCC. It was done as a 998, and it had different sump on it, blah, 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 stuff like that. And then the car's changed hands a few times, and now my Australian friend owns the car. So he's been racing it, and he's basically said, look, you know, do you want to have a bit of a refresh and bring it up to the latest specs? So he's got the latest camshaft now. He's gone from 72.5mm to 74, which is plus 60 thou oversize on the 998. Takes him to 1040cc, which is the class limit for the CTCRC cars. So by bringing the capacity up, that's also enabled me to do some work on the head. We've skinned the block and got the compression up by making little intruder pistons for it. He's got the latest Shrigley baffle plate in, which means we can run a nice standard lightweight sump. So there's a couple of bulges there for the mains, the block strengthening kit to come through. And what excites me about the whole thing really is I've done a new chamber shape, because the chamber shape is critical, you know, and also to de-shrouding the valves, get the air in, but also if you go too big, you end up with no compression, so you end up with rubbish burner speed. So it's all a big trade-off. But I've done a new design of chamber shape, sort of trying to utilize maximum flow with the minimum amount of loss of compression, and it's worked quite well because we've managed to get it 22.2 cc's, which is 12.7 to 1. So got good burn in this. It'll hang on well, this. Now, obviously, as we've discussed many times before, just because we've made it 40cc bigger and given it a bigger, better port flow, etc., and we're going to put some bigger chokes in the carburetor. Oh, and the other thing is, which is going to be the best advantage the engine's got, is he's invested in a supersonic Will Parry exhaust manifold. I absolutely love these exhausts. Will goes to so much effort to make sure this job's right, and honestly, they're crisper, they're just better all round. It's only a small advantage, but the small advantage in the exhaust, a bit more compression, the better flow in the head, and the new chamber shape, all these little bits, they add up to just give you that extra little bit that makes a difference. Anyway, I'm going on, aren't I, again? What I'll say is, as we discussed before, they do sort of 75 foot-pound of torque. What we do is, with this engine now, instead of having 75 foot-pound of torque at like 5,000 and 6,000 RPM, we're just going to shift it further up. And the shift, now that he's got, you know, the car tuned in a bit, he's got it on he's lightened the car, and he's got his ratios in the right place. He's learnt to drive it. He's also been on a big diet himself, because obviously weight is the enemy. What we're going to do is, if you remember, we always talk about the, say we say it's got 75 foot-pound of torque at 5,000 RPM. It's the torque multiplied by the RPM divided by 5252, which gives us the horsepower figure. So by shifting that torque, because we're multiplying it by, say, if we get 75 foot-pound at 8,000 RPM, then we're getting the 100 plus horsepower then, which is what we want, horsepower, work done. That is what projects you forward. Torque is great when you've got gear ratios all over the place in a heavy car, and you're off cam and you need to pull through. But now he's got it dialed in a bit. Hopefully the extra power we're going to get him is going to give him them few seconds on track that he needs to get him up at the front. So I'm going to run this for you guys in a bit. I'm just going to do a bit more fettling, put the chokes in, etc. And we'll probably fit the full exhaust silencer as well, so we can run it as it's going to be, exactly as it's going to be in the car. So, yeah, I look forward to use that with you in a bit. Okay, YouTubers, we're on a dyno now with Will's engine, and we're running it. It's doing half right power. I wouldn't have said it's stunning because it's a bad air day today and our figures aren't corrected, so it's 970 millibar. So the best, it's like a low air pressure. So if we think of all the engines as being turbocharged at 1 bar with atmospheric pressure, instead of running 15 psi, it's running a bit less. So yeah, it's not doing what we want it to do, but it's half right and it's got a good spread. We'll just wind it up. It's very sweet and it hangs on well. But what we'll do is we'll leave it on the dyno till a better day and see if we get the right figures out of it. So you see it's holding, that's actually doing better than before. It's holding about 75, 78 foot-pound at 7. At 8 it's still doing 73. So I suspect when we get a better air day, this will be quite a good engine. Morning chaps, back on with the Will engine. Now I was hoping it'd be a better air day today. It's still rubbish, it's still like 970 millibars, just the weather we're having. So we're gonna have to finish running it with probably the figures a little bit down. Although I've just wound it up now. I've been doing a bit of tweaking on the engine. I've put a little bit more advanced in, just on the basis that this guy's got the car right now. You know, he runs the car at the correct temperature. I have to sort of tune the engines depending on whether they're a new customer or an existing customer, just how close I put them to the point of going wrong, if you know what I mean. So obviously the more fuel we run, the cooler it runs, as well as a bit of a safety margin on the detonation side. But the most important thing, of course, is the advance. You know, if we've got the advance in there, we get the extra power. But you know, what I'm trying to avoid is the situation where you go to Brands Hatch in the middle of August and it's 28 degrees ambient, and you do 3 laps and then there's a red flag. Then you sit on the line and the water temperature gets up to like 85, 90, then the lights go green and you go and race the engine, and that, if you haven't got that safety margin, you know, that little bit of advance that's missing, that it will happily run with at 60 degrees, you can get a situation where the temperature just can't recover. So the detonation starts. Once the detonation starts, that you know, brings more heat and more problems, and then before you know it, we've got, you know, issues. So to avoid these issues, I always send the engines out. Well, I'm really going off track here, aren't I? I try and send the engines out with a bit of a safety margin. So let's just say, for example, this engine does its peak torque and peak performance, you say, I don't know, 38 degrees of advance. It'll leave here with 34, 35, so it's got that safety margin, unless the customer is like James Ibbotson. I know I can trust him to run it at 60 degrees, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, so Will's got good cooling, so we're going to sneak a bit of advance in. The only problem with sending engines out like this is, not very often, but sometimes we're giving engines for a customer and they've got a local rolling road they've been using, and then they ring me up and they go, oh, guess what, Andy, I've had me a car down the local rolling road and they've got another 5 horsepower out of it. Yeah, they've done this, they pulled a bit of fuel out of it and put a bit of advance in, and I just think, oh, wonderful, mate, there's your safety margin gone. Anyway, you can ring them when it grenades itself. No, I'm joking, I wouldn't say that. But right, let's wind this up anyway. We'll try and grab it from about 5. Oh, she's fresh. That's be 6, I'm afraid, guys. It's just too leery. It comes on about 5. You see a good 78 foot-pound there at 6.5. Still holding it at 7. She's good. Good 110 horses. Still holding it. 8,000. Still 68. Right. Wonderful. Well, that foaming off the top of the header tank there is just the fact that the water pump's going very, very, very fast. Because it's mechanically driven, it's nothing to worry about. Right, we'll box this off at that, and I'll just do one more run perhaps with the exhaust system off, just to make sure nothing's affected, so it will be exactly as it is in the car, as in where the mole grips are there. It'll have no pipe going to the extractor. It's a bit controversial because although it gives me an exact idea of what the engine's going to do in the car, of course the dyno cell can't exchange its air fast enough, so we end up with it polluted with fumes, which obviously will knock the horsepower. Right, okay, we're going to try him now with no exhaust pipe to the ceiling, you know, the big exhaust. This is as it will run in the car. So we'll see how it's affected. Hopefully it won't bother it. Might see it help it at the top a little bit. exactly what we've seen with the full length exhaust, so it's not bothering it in the slightest. Right, we'll call that in the outro now, because we've got to get the rally car engine on, which has got the misfire at 7,500. I'll explain that in a minute when I get it on. Okay, YouTubers, it's Saturday afternoon and we've had a right good day. The door's not rang once, no disruption whatsoever. So this is the rally car engine I just mentioned, and this poor chap, he bought the car, lovely car, and he's had nothing but issues with misfires and holding back like 7,500. He says it has like a fluffy spot there, which is where it should be really strong. So he's had it at the rolling road and various places, and I said, look, if you want, you know, we'll have a look at it, put it on dyno. So what I've done is I've bolted on the dyno and I fired it up, and it fired up first time and ran quite sweetly. I have my suspicions about various parts. Obviously, being a historic rally car, it's on a points and condenser, so it has an external condenser on it, and it's just, yeah, it is what it is. We're going to put it on electronic ignition. He's asked me to do that because it's fine with the regs. As long as it's got the advance controlled by the mechanical bob weights, that's fine. It can run a triggered ignition system. So we're going to put it on one of them. But what I want to do is I've basically just bolted it on here exactly as it would be in the car, with the coil and the points and all the rest of it. And we're going to run it up together now to 7,500 and see if we can make it replicate the problem it's got in the car. And then we can start changing things, and then we can report to him and tell him what the issue could be. Okay, chaps, we've got the 1040 Fraser B cam on the dyno. We're going to wind it up together for the first time to see if we can create. The customer says it gets to 7.5 and it feels like it's fluffing, like it's going rich or something. So what we'll do is we'll put a bit of load on. Starting from about 6. It feels quite fresh. It's pulling a good 70 foot-pound there. Back it off. 6.5, still clean. Oh, there we go. 7.7 won't pull past it. That's electrical, that. I'll put money on it. Right, wonderful. Well, that's really good, because normally when we have a problem in the car, we put the engine on the dyno, the problem disappears and we're like, oh god, what could it be? But that's definitely, I would say, electrical, and I think we'll go in together and have a look and see what we can see. Okay, back running again. I've just been in and I didn't like the look of the coil that they supplied with the engine. It was like black all over, but what really made me suspicious of it was the fact no one owned up to it. No one said it was their brand. It didn't even say, normally they say like 12 volts or 9 volts or 3 ohm or 1.5 ohm used with ballast or whatever. It said nothing. So I thought the first place to start was by putting one of the Remax coils on that I get from Green Spark Plug Company, because that's what I put on all the races, the ES3 Sports coil. It's like a replacement for the old Lucas Sport. So let's see how we get on at 7.5. Let's see if the misfire is still there. Clean as a whistle. Go back and really make it work. Only 7 there, wide open throttle. 7.5, 8, sweet that. Not got a great deal of power, but this is the rally engine, so we'll see what it's like at 5.5 and 6, because that's where it should have a nice bit of torque there. Yeah, it's all in 70, 75 there. Decent that. Right, wonderful. We can report to the customer we've actually fixed something without spending 1,000 hours on it. A chap local to myself has popped in today with his 930 engine. We've stripped and inspected it. So Malcolm, thank you for agreeing to come on Shrigleytube TV.
It's a pleasure.
Are you a subscriber?
Oh yes.
Do you give me the thumbs up and like? It's probably a bit technical.
Yeah, it's a bit too technical. I'm a newcomer to YouTube.
Yeah, ask the grandkids to sort that bit out, yeah. Mal, give us a bit of history here. Have you bought a G15, have you?
I bought a Ginetta G15, which was very nice. The bodywork's nice paint job.
Excellent.
Chassis.
So the hard bit's done.
Chassis powder coated and so on. I was told the whole business was 95% complete, but I think the person who involved themselves in that story is probably mathematically dyslexic.
Right, okay.
And it's either 9.5% complete or 59% complete. They think a lot of things around the wrong way. But I can smile about it.
Mal, you're just cool, aren't you? Because you, as a young lad, you know, at a tender age of what, you're about 55 or something.
Yeah. 83 now. Yeah.
83.
Yeah.
Can you do me a favour before you go?
Yeah.
I need you to write down your daily routine so I can copy it.
Yeah.
Because you're in awesome shape. Fair play. Right, let's look at this engine then. So we've just stripped the gearbox, haven't we? Because you said I think it's got a limited slip diff. Because when I turn the yoke on one side, the other one turns the same way. Yeah. But no, the gearbox was full of water as well. Now I think this is.
It wasn't a yoke; it was a joke.
I think it was a joke. Listen, you've been on here before, haven't you? Yeah. Right. Sorry. So the gearbox has been full of water, and that's why it seized. So it brought the engine as well, and we've just took that apart. And I think what I'm seeing here, Malk, if I zoom in, I think we've got a tide mark. You know, where the water's been sat. It's obviously a fresh build of some type.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, it's had a bit of moisture in it, so obviously the bores are not looking like they're going to go again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now the reason we took it apart is obviously we're going to create something new for you. So what I was keen to see was what we could salvage from this, and I think we'll get the crank out and throw a G-clamp on it. But I think the crank's okay. I think the rods are okay. The block's obviously okay when it has liners in it. The head looks like someone's cared about it and skimmed it and done a nice job of it. It's just a shame the water's got in there. So we can probably use the head as well. And then you've already got twin 40 DCOEs, haven't you, on a manifold?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll write a list down of all the parts you've got, what we can use out of this, and then what I've got to put in the pot, and make a plan.
And I want a decent engine builder this time. So I hope you fit that job.
Oh, Malk, yeah. Well, I've been practicing. I've done a few now, and I'm hoping that we're getting closer to getting the job right, yeah?
But if it's as good as the one I've just seen on the dyno, I'll be happy.
Oh, that's very kind. That's very kind. Right, yeah, we'll see you right. And we'll say what we'll do. When it's ready, we'll get you down here, and you can do the old throttle lever. You can hold the knackered piston.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. So that's like your umbilical cord. That's the engine. You can feel everything.
Well, I've already got 5 knackered pistons. So
yeah.
That'll be
don't worry more. No, it'll be fine. Don't worry. Right. Thanks for agreeing to be on Shrigleytube anyway, and you can get your popcorn ready for 7 o'clock Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
cheers.
Thank you.
Right, chaps. We've got a special engine in the workshop today. This is a submersible engine. Unfortunately, these chaps here, this is Paul and Neil. They've come from Chesterfield, the home of the Crooked Spire, and also, more importantly, the Greetham Imps and all the race imps from back in the day. So, what's happened, chaps? Tell me all about it.
We had a flood.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and the car got flooded.
Drats. So that was all that bad weather when I went to King's Lynn on the Sunday the other day, wasn't it?
20th of October.
20th of October. So you've been pretty snappy and got it out so we can have a peep inside. Let's just hope there's not too much damage.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Right, yes.
Right. Well, we'll get it pulled apart and then we'll report. So a bit of a history on the spec. It's a Mark Maynard 1040.
Yep.
And it has no previous issues. It's just had a little bit of a swim, and yeah, we'll make sure it's not got any I don't know, it's silts and stuff in there in the water and belting. Right, I'll pull it apart now. Okay, we're just with Paul and Neil, and we took their head off, and it's not looking too bad, is it, guys?
No, not too bad. No,
I mean, to be fair to it, this clean land round here tells me that the wheel strings have been sealing well. So you did say it had a bit of emulsification, didn't you?
I did.
And we're quite pleased to say that straight away it's become obvious that the paper gasket has just started to fret at the front there. I reckon it might be just dripping a bit of water into your oil system. So that could be where your mayonnaise has come from. I will be honest, when was built? 2016, you say?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, the paper gasket and the wheel string job is like good for 3-4 years. And then because it's a race thing, you know, it's not a fit and forget production thing. So, you know, people do get away with it for longer, but generally if the car's being used quite a lot, they do fret and settle like that. We do see them. Normally what we see is the paper gasket leaking down the outside.
Oh, right.
But yeah, so looking at the head, looks like it's a nice sport spec head. Wheel strings all look good. No war in there. A little bit of something's gone through it. Oh no, that's just carbon. We'll have a look at the bores next, and we'll get the pistons out and the crank, and we'll have a measure up and see what it says.
Okay.
Cool. Right, I'm here with Neil, Paul, and we've got another visitor in the workshop who's also a subscriber, aren't you, Wilkie?
Certainly am, my friend.
Excellent. Right, so we're just doing a bit of a conclusion on this because we're going to put it back together as soon as possible for Neil so that it's not off the road too long. Although I shouldn't say too much because there's people waiting for engines. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll slip it in at some point, but we're going to try and not get too involved because it's basically a very sound lump. The crankshaft measures up. Bang on tolerance. We've had no funny pattern on the side of the pistons, but all these pistons look like that. That's how they look. This particular brand of piston that we use in all the engines. So you've got no oil issues, have you smoke or anything like that. It's all good in that area. We will have a quick look at the head before you go. Block looks good. Nice hone in the bore still. All that's fine. So we found a little path where the water could possibly be leaking into the sump. So I'm happy with that. So yeah, I think we're looking at basically a reassembly job. Good. And then we'll run it on the dyno and make a video of it at 10,000 RPM for you, so you know it's good.
Perfect.
Right, wonderful. Right, we're on the final stages of the strip down. We've got Neil's engine in a box now, ready for operation dry out. So just got the carbs here. Now these were new carbs, were they, Neil?
There was.
And they functioned well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just we're going to get them apart now because we get them to 1 million pieces. We don't want them to fur up with the moisture that's inside and cause corrosion. So we're going to dissect these. I'm not going to video it because you've seen it all before, but the other day we did the Weber video. But we'll get them all in a tray and we'll have a look and see how much water's got in there. Okay, we've got the carbs apart. Just to conclude your visit, chaps. So dead lucky, these guys have actually quickly got it all apart. So all of the chokes, which is where my concern was, the chokes and the venturis, you know, if the mud and the silt gets in there, they don't like, especially if they corrode, these can get stuck inside the carburetor bodies and you cannot get them out. You know, you end up virtually having to machine them out and on some of the older cars. But I've noticed that these are new carbs. These are the the Spanish Webers, so they've got the big cheese screws in them. These are the later type cars, but they work really well. You're quite happy with them, weren't you, Neil?
Yeah, great.
And they've got, interesting, it's got 28mm chokes in, which I've seen before on road cars. Quite small, but it keeps the airspeed up. So, yeah, that'll make it a nice drive. So, thanks for bringing the engine down, guys, and we'll get on with it at some point.
Thanks for the cup of tea.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for the biscuit. You've wrecked me fasting.
Yeah.
If I put a kilogram on, that could be half a second that next year.
Yeah. If you visit him, bring him chocolate.
Don't bring me any food ever, please.
Sure.
Right. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.